Hey everybody, welcome to the Bourbon Tie-In tonight. Super excited. We have Nolan on with Backbone Bourbon. Hopefully the Instagram thing works. It's always weird on when it does or when it doesn't. So no reason to beat around the bush. We're just going to get to it. I'm going to get everybody brought in here. I'm going to unmute mics. So let me go to my layout. And is that the layout I want? No. Nope. Don't like that layout. There we go. So I think you have to unmute yourself. I muted you, but you have to unmute yourself.
Got it.
Hey, what's up?
All right. Well, Nolan, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Super excited to talk about the estate.
Yeah.
And, me and Chris are going to pick your brain and talk more about it. So good to see you. Glad you're on.
Yeah.
I just poured mine. And Chris, I'm going to let you take over a second while I figure out Instagram.
All right, not a problem. Oh, so it's been a while. It's been a while since I've got to hang out with Nolan, but some of my guys have been down there. We're going to be drinking the estate tonight. Absolutely awesome. Nolan got us out these samples. Excited to have this. He's going to tell us a little more about this, but I did bring out a couple of my other favorite backbones I've ever had. One of the guys is in here, but good old Bourbon with the
Yes.
Barrel Outlaws.
Yes.
So the fun bottle, you know the fun story of that. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell it. And then my guys went down there. I didn't get to make it that time. Picked 18-year-old from the good old Proof Posse. So Travis and Nick and everybody got down there and got that one. Absolute banger bottles. All I can say is everything that I've ever been involved with you, absolute banger bottles.
Good.
I have stuff from Mythical with Chad and Amon. Got Mash and Journey stuff.
Yeah.
Everything I've got from you guys, I've been super thrilled to have. And, I always look forward to hanging out with you and talking biz, So
Thanks, Chris.
Let us know what you got going on besides estate and tell us a little more about the estate.
Yeah, a big picture wise, Bourbon World's different.
Yes, it is.
The last 18 months have been a challenge, but it's kind of what Bobby said before we went live. It's if you focus on revenue and you forget about quality, you kind of lose your way. So we're very committed to doing the best that we can. And I think I've been in the alcohol business for a long time. It's always there. It's just a little bit of a weird time. So, but one thing that's been really positive for us in the last 12 months has been the single barrel program, and that's been rewarding to see, because we do have fans, and what we're trying to do, the experience we're trying to provide is it's made an impact. And glass is always half full for sure. And we'll just roll the punches. And I say this all the time, but when you're in the bourbon business, it's a generational business.
It is. It is.
If a generation is 20 years or plus, I'm about halfway through that. So yeah, just have the long view. You got to hustle with a halo at times.
It's as long as the needle's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
As long as it's moving. As long as it's moving.
Yeah. Well, thanks to you guys, it feels like it's moving. So, the Backbone Estate is something, that it just kind of organically came out of, our thinking. We're always careful about new stuff. And, during the go-go days of COVID, it was easy to do a new thing or at least the planning part and getting comfortable with it. But, one of the things we'll talk a lot about this tonight. I think we will, but we do a lot of rebarreling at Backbone. We buy whiskey. We don't make any whiskey for anyone listening. We're not a distillery. We are a non-producing or a non-distilling producer, technical term. But so we buy barrels, and we've been an MGP. MGP's been a source for a long time, but we view it as a base ingredient, and then we kind of backboneify it, if that's the term. And that's where the rebarreling comes in. We've got a lot of different finishes that we do, but we do a lot of just straight rebarreling, different a new oak barrel, different sizes. So Backbone Estate came out of that process and being involved in it for years, and we've done I don't know, we must have done 50 cognac finish barrels, and we've always loved that. We just feel like cognac somehow, it's like a hand and glove component to bourbon, and so we've always had that as a go-to. We've just always loved it, and that was to the side. And then the other thing that we've always loved is just a good old-fashioned double barrel. And we've gotten we were able to find some great barrels from Independence Dave Company a few years ago. Our bottler was have to give him credit for getting me onto this, but Independence Dave is really forward thinking. They've got a finishing barrel. It's not any, there's no flavor in it. It's just a pure oak barrel, but it's called a wave stave barrel, so it's got these waves into it. And the first time we did some barrels, and the first time I tasted what it did to the whiskey was just a huge revelation for me. MGP has always been a soft and sweet whiskey, which I think has been the reason for its success. But the second barrel has really added a nice structure to the whiskey. And guys, it was just through years of tasting these two independently. Having the cognac be kind of a feminine component, having some fruit in it, being much more of an upper level flavor in your palate, and then getting the double barrel wave stave as kind of that really, if you were playing an instrument, it'd be the bass, right? But a really rich bass, and just the idea of putting this upper part and this lower part together and seeing how it plays together. So that's kind of the easy part. The hard part is for me to explain the name, because I have a wine background, and when you say estate, it's like it's grown on the estate, and we don't do any growing, we don't do any distilling. But I really feel like this blend is homegrown, and that's why I felt comfortable calling it Backbone Estate, because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure someone does something similar in the universe, but this is something totally organic that we came up with. It wasn't quick. It wasn't a brilliant idea one night after a bunch of bourbon. It took years of tasting the two together, and then suddenly having the idea of how could we put these together, and that's about it, guys.
Yeah. Well, hey, putting the name estate onto the bourbon, that should tell everybody the weight that it carries for you. There's pride in that, because when you're talking about the wine business and somebody talks about their estate, that's their everything. That speaks for them from the top to the bottom about the brand. And now you're putting that name on this for you as a new release. That speaks volumes to me. I'm excited to get into this.
Bourbon had the best one-liner on this. He called it juicy.
Juicy.
It's juicy, man. I tell you what,
that sounds like a Bourbon line. That sounds like a Bourbon line all day.
But I give him a lot of credit. It's juicy, man. And that's what it is. I mean, it may not be everyone's cup of tea for a particular night, but it certainly is on the rich side, for sure.
On the nose, it's beautiful. Just
so I know you probably said this already, but someone on Instagram was asking, where do you source your cognac and Armagnac barrels from?
Okay, great question. So I don't know the ultimate source, but I have three companies that I really like that I buy these barrels from, and um, I've got a guy in Maine who is my variety guy, and I can get all kinds of weird stuff from him. Um, Most notably, if you spend any time with me in the tasting room, I love Amaro as a finishing
Mhm.
barrel. And Amaro is completely contrived. It's just a massively contrived finishing barrel. Um, but the cognac comes from a guy that gets them wet from France, and every cognac barrel is about $700. Um, it's not a cheap endeavor, but it's
Mm-mm.
it's such a special finish for us that we're committed to buying as good as we can buy. But where it comes from, I don't really know. But all I know is the guy that is importing them is doing he's on it. He's really doing a great job. He doesn't have a ton of variety, but what he has is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know that like I was very interested. I mean, I've loved Backbone from the first day we met because when you walk in, you can taste stuff and that stuff, and then you can taste difference, right? Like, this a lot of people have MGB or squid or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
But it's what you do with it. I think that's the thing with everything, right? And so, being a former wine guy, the estate intrigued me because I used to always get my wine from McKinney Brothers Leslie Estate, and I know that was their private estate.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually thought a lot like what Chris said.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said was the idea that like it echoed you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It echoed something that you was like, hey, this is what I'm willing to do this and these fun things, but this kind of spoke to me on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I like the proof.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, one of the things that always been something I enjoy about anything you do,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if it's a single barrel pick or whatever, your stuff always drinks to proof.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is 110, right? 110 proof.
Mm-hmm.
It drinks like 110.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, because I'm a lot like you and Chris. I'm a cigar whiskey guy. I like that. Sometimes when someone has something that's like 120, but it drinks like 100, it kind of gets lost sometimes in my cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't find these proofs really being something I can't really just marry up to
Mm-hmm.
and look at it and I'm like, wow, this drinks like 110, which I actually like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much robustness to it that just sits back. And if you're a cigar smoker, you want the finish, right? I want the coating. I want that feel, that mouth feel that just gives me a finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that on all your stuff. But I'm going through the estate right now, and I'm like, I love that I felt like it was in that proof. It's like, it punches where it should punch.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. That's that. Thank you, Bobby. The average age is around 6 years old on this stuff. We typically dump our for anything that we're going to do in a flavored finish like a cognac. We pick bourbon that's 4 years plus, so between 4 and a half years old. The cognac in this was in there for a year and a half, so that was about a 6 year age process. And then the double barrel was 2 years. Same thing. We did 4.5 years on the first barrel, and then 2 years in the wave stave. And the thing about the Backbone Estate is we only did 73 cases. So 73
wow.
times 6. And it's more about where we are in the industry. I can do Backbone Estate anytime I want because we have tons of cognac and we have tons of wave stave double barrel. So, but I wanted to we really are. We hopefully we can talk about what's coming up for Backbone, but
Yep.
I'm a really big believer in micro batches right now, and small guys. The one thing we can do is we can do small, um, and and there's a lot of traditional bourbon drinkers out there, and that's great, and I'm sure that they would love a Backbone, but um, but what the people we identify with as a company are the people that are looking for some adventure. They're looking for some exhilaration. They're looking for something different, not crazy different. It's still got to be on the spectrum of what bourbon should be, but it's something that's pushing the limit. Um, and so, um, with a micro batch kind of a focus, we can really, you know, we can give people like that something to really think about and to have some fun with. So 73 cases, believe me, it's a test. Everyone I sell to wants to not have inventory. So we only did Backbone Estate for, we have a retailer in DC and in Indiana is our biggest market. So that's the only two markets that got it.
Okay. I was just going to ask that.
Yeah.
Because you are here in Wisconsin, and I haven't seen any. And I was just in Kentucky and didn't see any. Saw some of your other stuff, but didn't see that. So I was wondering where it was distributed.
Yeah. Just this is purely a test. Let's see how we go. It's hard to introduce new products right now because everyone's
very hard.
Defense.
It's very hard in the market.
Right.
Nobody's bringing anything in on the distribution side at all.
Exactly.
At all.
It's like pulling teeth, getting orders out of people. But that's okay. I mean, this is what we went through, an amazingly weird time with COVID, and it sucked the air out of things in a way, and that's okay.
Right.
I'm all about, if you don't expect change in any business, then you shouldn't be in business.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah. So let's just roll with it, and we'll be fine.
Which, I think that's the thing that's so unique, right? Because, like earlier, I was down here with my brother, and we were just drinking classic bourbon.
Yeah.
And there's a place for that. Like we were just sitting there, we were drinking Old Forester 100, just nice, slight light honey, vanilla notes, and it was really nice. But the people that are, I don't want to use the word necessarily advanced, but experienced. Right. You do start finding you're like, hey, listen, I know that's the thing that I can just sip on and don't think about, but I want more. I want something more. I don't have FOMO. I'm not out there chasing stuff unless I have someone that tells me, hey, this is really good. I think you'll like this. And I think that's the one thing that is the good side. If you did it right, the good side of getting to know your community and that stuff, you start trusting each other. You don't have to go out and buy everything. You find the people that you know and say, listen, hey, I think you should buy this. And then I'm like, oh, if you think I should do it, I will. Because I trust them and they trust me. And for me, this is an easy, and I hate to say it because I'm just a cigar guy. I mean, this is a great cigar drinker. It finishes really well with my stick right now.
It does. For me, probably the funnest thing in this now I've had a lot of different MGPs that have cognac finishes. The one thing that's setting this apart for me. In the other ones, you get a softer note, a little more of a buttery, a little more of a bready. On this, the really cool part is you bring out the berry in the MGP and bring that forward. And the next thing that happens is I actually get the grape from the cognac. The grape component of the cognac comes through, and you do not see that on other cognac finishes in the market. This is really fun and really cool because I'm getting the best of both worlds right now.
Yeah.
So the thing about blending is that no one's born a good blender. You have to really well, first of all, you have to try a bunch of things, and you have to kind of remember what that is, and then you experiment. And I'm telling you, man, there's nothing. Bobby, it's like probably putting a cigar together, right?
Yeah.
You slap some stuff up against the wall, and you get a direction. Some of it, the initial stuff isn't quite what you want, but you've got a direction, and then you kind of add to it. So, but again, these two flavors just kept coming. I kept tasting them year after year after year, and it didn't. At some point, I don't know when it was, but I thought, man, this would be a really good combo, is to have the structure of the double barrel, and then that kind of fruity, kind of sweeter, softer version in the cognac. So
Yeah.
it,
Well, you nailed it. I'm going to tell you, I don't mean to cut you off.
that's all right.
But the one thing a lot of people don't know, when you talk about the wave stave, I was lucky enough to have the ACBS one out of Chicago, because I know those guys really well. That you did. Unbelievable. But that wave stave actually makes the bourbon have notes of being older. And that is something you get here, because when you talk that 8 to 12 year range of the MGP, that's where you really start getting those rich berry notes and that little bit of that vanilla tingle on the side of your tongue, and it really starts popping. You told us the ages of this already.
Yeah.
You're getting that berry note
Yeah.
in this all day long, like it's well over 8 years old. And then that grape comes in from the cognac. So
yeah.
Because I was really noticing a lot of the back end barrel spices that I normally pull out of the back of my back palate. My back palate is like, wow, this has got some age to it. And when you said what it was, I was like, I would have been off by a good 4 to 6 years on age.
I was gonna say, 5, yeah.
Say it was like I was pulling some, because like I'm a weird guy. I do all kinds of weird stuff when I taste. I'll literally put it to the tip of my tongue and then I'll flip it. I'll literally flip it to sides because I don't want. I want experiences, right? And I know for me, the back sides of my tongue and my back finish is where I'm usually looking. Now, mid palate usually is like the bouquet; it opens up like a plume. Sweets in the front end, which is cool, great for me. But I'm more of like, what's it doing in the back register?
I agree. Back end, how that goes, I can get over a lot of front and middle. That isn't what I want, but the back end, great. I'm there completely, Bobby, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you, Zach.
I snuck in just under the wire. I didn't realize that you sent the link at like 6:30 this morning. So I'm thinking, looking around noon, freaking out, looking for until finally, I found the link. Hello, Nolan. It's a pleasure to get to meet you, Zach Andrews.
Hey, Zach.
This is wonderful. You mentioned one of my most favorite things when it comes to bourbon. That if you're going to finish it, put it in cognac or Armagnac, and I'm sold. So, Chris, you were absolutely right about the grape. It's a very, and you can tell that it's a white grape, but it's not tart. Tart. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was, because on the initial nose, I was thinking like a light apple. I was going more apple rather than like the berry note. But as soon as you said grape and on the palate, spot on. That's nice, man.
So, Bobby, one of the things, that I think people think they can blend, and that's fine. I'm not. I don't want to dog anybody, but the reason for blending, the reason, for me, the number one reason is to add complexity. And you can blend, and if it doesn't become, if you take the 2 whiskeys, or maybe 3, maybe 4, and you don't create more complexity, then it's not a good blend. You've got to create something greater than the sum of the parts. And the one thing I'll say, and I'm very careful about this, that anything that we do, if everything has its own identity, and I'm really proud of that. And it's all MGP. It's all 21% MGP, man. I'm telling you. It's
really good.
Yeah, it's really something that I hope people feel like it sets us apart, even though we're an MGP source.
And I'm trying to sip it slow, which ain't happening because
No, I poured tiny, but still I went through it pretty quick. Just because once I got that initial taste,
yeah,
I wanted to see what was going to happen next, and is it going to keep on going? Is it going to layer? It's done all those things. This,
Yeah, 'cause,
like we were talking in the back room, Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we all deserve those pats on the back for the work
Yeah.
we put in.
yeah, that's right.
This is it, buddy. This is it. This is it. And it,
Well, you know,
Listen,
I'm going to tell you, bourbon is a thankless business.
Well,
Yeah.
Your end. It's a
It's
thankless business. You
even
deserve
more
it. You
thankful.
deserve
It's
the
even more
pat on the
thankful
back,
for-
buddy.
It's even more thankful from a guy who would rather drink scotch, and this is a bourbon I'd go out and buy.
Well, there you go.
So
I'll drink to that.
that's it, man. That's like, if you're gonna give me a bourbon, give me that, man.
because I know that
We convert Zach one day.
when I used to when I very first started on YouTube, I had been doing it way before then, but I did a lot of blending. I did a lot of different experiments. I did a lot of different things. And the thing you said was like hitting the nail on the head is like you have to remember things, but you also have to be able to forget things. You know, I need to like, okay, that note's there normally, but I'm not looking for normal. I'm looking like, what does it bring? Does it bring something that is applicable to the situation? Is it going to enhance it? Is it going to grow it? Is it going to make it a unique experience?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's funny because I tried to not really know anything about it. I didn't do research on the estate. I looked at the sample bottle, which tells you just enough I need to know. What's the proof? And it's, you know, it's yours. It was so funny because before you said cognac, I was in my back register sitting here thinking, I was like, boy, there's that like saccharine note that I'm really registered with like cognac. And it puts that back here because it wasn't quite enough to be stoutish, but it was definitely enough to be cognac-y, which sometimes I like, well, in my mind, it's very like a cola saccharin, right? That saccharine note.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you said that, and I was like, well, I know someone in here likes Davidoff and smokes cigars besides us.
Yes. Yes, he does.
So, but yeah, so I love this. I could drink this and with a cigar all day long. As a matter of fact, my brain, I already know what kind of cigar I would put with it.
Really? What? So tell me more about that.
So when I start getting into that finished, it gives me that barrel spicy aged note with that saccharine note.
Mm-hmm.
It leads way to a profile of a cigar that doesn't require spice because I'm getting the spices from the whiskey.
Makes sense.
So I can go into like a really nice, I can stay in a Maduro, but I don't need to go into like a San Andreas style where I get a little bit more spices. I can go into like a true Dominican or even a Cuba, right? And Ecuadorian Cuban. You know, you can get into those really nice medium mids, sweet cigar note because the spice in the dark back end is going to play so well with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like adding a little bit of dark.
Bobby, I can tell you it works. I'm smoking a Cohiba Dominican right now, and spot on.
I was just like, man, I'll tell you what, if I had a Dominican medium body non-Maduro, it would be right in the wheelhouse because the sweet cigar note you're going to get is going to pair with that dark saccharine barrel spice.
Oh, it's playing perfect right now, and I had no clue. I was like, that was sitting on top of my box. I grabbed that, and win-win all day, man.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you a little bit about, if you don't mind, the barrel. You know, the rebarreling is really a big deal, and you know, I mean, I don't think I have to explain to you guys that a lot of the flavor, most of the flavor in bourbon, in Scotch actually, comes from the barrel.
Correct.
So, we've been in this. We've had our first brand was 14 years ago. It was a private label for our distribution company in Indiana, and then Backbone became its own entity in 2014. So, we've had some time in this, and when I initially let me remind everybody, because in 2014 you couldn't buy a new oak barrel anywhere. You could buy millions of dollars of distillate, but you could not buy a new barrel. And I was lucky enough to find some really high quality barrels, but they were meant for the wine industry. And these barrels were all 36 months air dried. And I developed a cool relationship with this family in Missouri. And then the son, the father, sold the business to the Silver Oak Winery in California. It already owned half the cooperage. They sold the rest of it, I think, in 2015. But the son went on his own, and he was one of the founding members of Barrel 53. And when I first got to understand how much different we got some of these really cool wine barrels. We put new distillate in them, and we had no idea for 2 years. And once we started to taste the stuff, when it was old enough or aged enough, I was like, man, every single barrel I want to be this good. I'll make that commitment right now. And stick with me because I have a point to the story. It creates a very rich luxury feel, easy, great, wonderful. And if I have to, let me fast forward, 5 years from that point in time. I actually want the barrels that are air dried for 6 weeks, put in a little big toaster, and have that astringency from the oak. I want those in my barrel portfolio, but I also want the good stuff that's been air dried for 36 months because they give you something different. And those barrels that are not air dried for a long time, that are quick turnaround business barrels, as I like to call them, they create a certain higher tone in the whiskey. And over time it ages out. Over time it's fine. It becomes just fine. But at a certain point, that higher tone becomes very useful in blending, extremely useful. And I can tell you that there are many times where I have incredible whiskey, but I need that higher tone to give it balance. Bobby, I'm also a wine guy. First love was wine. And the one thing about wine, anything that's a quality wine, there is balance to that wine. So, it's easy to be whatever the canvas is, right? You can, it's easy to add sweet cocktails. Make it sweet. Everyone's gonna love it. No. Maybe they'll like the first sip. Maybe they like the second sip, but a cocktail's got to be balanced. And there's 100 different examples of that in every form of life, where too much of one thing is not right. You got to balance it. So that's my little spiel on barrels, and it's such an important part of our business to understand what barrels can do. Everyone thinks that bourbon is one barrel, but if that's where all the flavor comes from, well, hell, we're going to play with the barrels then. We're going to add some flavor, and then we're going to have different strings that we can pull from, and then we're going to figure out how to blend and make it balanced and make it cool, make it complex.
Hey, Nolan, what's the difference in size from those new wine barrels to a standard whiskey barrel? Normally 53 gallon, right?
So it's a great question. So they do 60 gallon and 30 gallon.
Okay.
Don't know why. It's probably based on liters because the French do liters, but yeah, they're just a little bit bigger. And the standard bourbon barrel, as you know, 53 gallons and then 25. So, and that's another thing. I mean, I got into this business back in the day, and I thought, we got to have small barrels because we got to age it quickly. It took me about a year. I was like, fuck that. We're out of now. I'm back like we got to do small barrels. What the hell do I know? Because it's just we Backbone, we love variety. Chris, we still at the same building, but we have our own dedicated space, and
Yeah, yeah.
we have 400 barrels.
That's what Ben and a few other people told me,
Yeah.
that you have your
Yeah.
own dedicated space, and I'm excited. I got to get down there.
Yeah.
I run back and forth between here and Kentucky way too
Yeah.
much these days, but it's a good thing. It's work, so it's good.
So,
but when you're talking barrels, I mean, you're speaking my language all day. I don't know if you know, but I work with Foregate. I'm one of the 4 people at Foregate now. So when you're talking about finishing and you're talking about barrels and the importance, and you're talking about adding complexity and lifting the original distillate up but not overshadowing the beauty of the original distillate, you're nailing it. That's everything we strive for at Foregate, and you're hitting it 100%. Like this is super good. Like, I love this.
One of the things that always for the people that aren't necessarily wine guys, right, I always found myself always drawn more to old vine than new vine, right? I wanted that deep root richness into the soil base, right? Whether you're getting into limestone, if you're up on the rocks, or just the deep richness difference between, like, say you have a cab and then you have an old vine cab, whether you're looking at Leslie Estates over in Cupertino or some of the old vines that's in Alexander Valley. There's a significant difference in those taste profiles. Do you ever take consideration into your wine barrels of new vine or old vine, or do you just look at the style of wine?
Boy, I don't know how to answer that. So we actually don't do a ton of wine barrels. So we have the Holy Trinity, right? Port, rum, and sherry.
Okay.
But then we've got Pandora's box after that, and I think we probably have close to 40 different finishing barrels. Things like mezcal and Grand Marnier, and we've got some Isle of Scotch, and so not a lot of wine based, and I would consider cognac wine based. We have some incredible Armagnac barrels. We have some crazy scientific lab stuff going on in the Armagnac barrels, but that's for the tasting room, because it gets a little weird and it's hard to explain. But it's really good. It's basically a cigar kind of batch bourbon is the way it ends up, but it's a fusion of several different finishing barrels all in one. So, but yeah, no, Bobby, not a lot of wine-based stuff.
Not a lot of wine-based. So let me expand on what you said, right? Because there may be or may not be a lot of people that understand what you just said, right? Is just the idea of what goes into that, right? Because you're sitting there saying, like, you said something to me that stood out. He's like, a cigar base, right? To me, I know what that is, but to someone else in here, they might not know.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about making a whiskey base that you want to appeal to a cigar smoker, that's still like a drinker. They're going to like it as a drinker, but a cigar drinker is going to really notice.
Right.
In your mind, what are you thinking when you do that?
I've made a cigar blend barrel. We did a couple of them, and that was because of the local group in Indianapolis. But you know what? We did 2 barrels. We had a tasting session. We did cognac and Oloroso sherry, and then straight bourbon, and then we blended it and rebarreled it, and I didn't really care for it, to be honest. I think one of those barrels did really well in Fred Minnick's. The group got one of the barrels and did really well in Fred Minnick's Escott single barrel category. But if you ask me what a cigar blend is, I have no idea, to be honest. I can tell you what I do. I can tell you what I do, and
I think you
and
already made it.
everything if so I look, I'm not saying it's a cigar blend. All I've heard from people that come and taste this stuff is this is a cigar blend. This is like Magnus, Joseph Magnus. But the one thing I put into every one of them is bourbon finish and Amaro.
Okay.
So these let's say it's a cigar finish. All right. I've typically we call them fusions, so we don't call them cigar blends, but it's three. We take 4 barrels, and 3 of them are bourbon finished in something, and then we do a great straight bourbon, and we dump those 4 barrels, and then we rebarrel them in used bourbon barrels. But what I've really gotten onto is to do that and then put them into a Armagnac barrel, because that's just that just takes it up a notch.
Now you're talking Zach's language.
I can do the regular used barrel. They're great. Takes about 2 or 3 months, and they are great. The Armagnac, 3 weeks, man, they're singing. They are singing like you won't believe. We have people taste them in the tasting room. It I have to be careful who I give them to, because I don't have that many of them. So,
do you think that's because of possibly the species of oak that those Armagnac barrels were?
Have no idea. I wish I knew.
Maybe it was one of those like European oak, those like French oak.
Yeah.
The difference, because those French oaks seem to have impart a little bit more character quickly.
Yeah. It's a good question, and I'm trying to learn more about why. The Armagnac barrels are, those, if the cognac's so expensive, those ones are probably the most expensive barrels I buy, and I reuse them. We don't reuse a lot of our finishing barrels, which any business person on this podcast would probably go, damn, that dude needs to learn a few things, but it's just too many moving parts. But the one barrel that we reuse is the Armagnac, because it's really expensive, and the second time we use it, it's great too. But so, Bobby, I don't know how to answer your question. I never really set out to do a cigar blend, but people tell me it's a cigar blend. It's got Amaro, it's got Oloroso sherry, it's got Barbados rum, and it's got good straight bourbon in it. So, and it's finished in an Armagnac barrel. I think it's great. I would have it with a Coke. I'd have it with a cigar. It's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's the right answer, right? Is because you don't like you. I really appreciate the idea that when you sit there and talk about, like, I don't know. Sometimes that's the greatest answer in the world. Because realistically, I don't need sunshine blown up my ass. I just want, hey, you know what? I don't know. This stuff's good and I like it. It's good enough for me.
Oh yeah.
I although I felt like I instantly heard the Goonies in me when I was saying good enough for me, but
it's our time.
But you're right. It's that thought of, I don't always know necessarily, because I'm not a guy that likes to do a lot of background and necessarily a drink. I like to drink it and then dissect it. Because if I dissect it first, I feel like I lose flavors, because I start inputting information and have expectation. Whereas I like to taste it and I'm like, oh man, this would be good for this. Like when you say earlier, you said, Magnus, like what Nancy did and all that stuff. I think that inherently someone that has that palate, all of us are cigar smokers. There's certain things that we are looking for. We might not know what it is, but we know what we're looking for. And for me, I'm looking for a savory barrel spice coating finish.
Yes.
That's where it's going to sit in my back register.
Yes.
That's where the smoke's going to collect.
Yes.
And I get that flavor profile in the back register, not in the front.
Right.
And so, like, I've told people, I was like, I don't really focus on sips anywhere in the front at all because I really know, okay, sweet, done, don't care. That's the sweet note.
Yeah.
What's everything else?
Bobby, I'm going to have Sam send you an Amaro, bourbon and Amaro, and just for research purposes. But you talked about savory.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it's a secret weapon at Backbone. Is that Amaro? I just haven't. I mean, we don't. I mean, single barrels, like regular finishing single barrels, no one's buying those things. They all want age, and they all want double barrel, all that stuff. But man, I keep putting stuff in Amaro barrels because it is so freaking useful. It's a really
Amaro's awesome. Like
compound.
we have like 4 or 5 different Amaros here at the house, and we use them for our old fashions and mix some Amaro in with all of them. And I was going to ask you about that when you're doing Amaro. Have you ever thought when you're doing an Amaro finish to also do? Now I see people like Dancing Goat and stuff like that starting to mess with some bitters finish barrels as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing the Amaro and then the bitters finish with it? So you're almost making a cocktail in a glass, but at barrel proof.
Mm-hmm. I haven't, but that's a great idea, though. How would you use the bitters in that, Chris? How would that get put into? So you'd add a certain amount of bitters into the barrel. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I would have to ask Nick up at Dancing Goat how they're doing that because they have done bitters barrel finish, and I'm not sure what he's doing with that exactly, but I'd like to ask him about it. I know they've done like a cherry bitters and like an orange bitters finish barrel is what he calls it. So I'm curious about that, especially when you're using the Amaro, because like I said, adding that little bit of Amaro in with a typical old fashioned and taking, away from some of the, sweetness of it. It just opens it up and you get the effervescence and it just takes you on a wild ride, because Amaro is made with so many different herbs, so many different spices. You can find something on every sip you didn't taste before, no matter.
Yeah,
and
it's savory. To Bobby's point, it's not sweet. It's yes.
I mean, I can drink all the sweet old fashions in the world, but I don't need that. Like when I add that in there and I get that savory, it's something I can just sit with, and that drink goes so good with a cigar because it's relaxing. It's just like the cigar. You're breaking it down. You're breaking down the cocktail with it. Just like you would if you were drinking a straight bourbon. Or for me, I find getting into some of the old school English made rums, that are barrel proof, that made in the dunder pits. You can taste all those different layers of complexity from all the fruit and what you get when you're making the yeast strains for that. I find that with the Amaro when I add it to the old fashioned, it's not the sweet drink, it's the slow, enjoyable, fun ride for me, and that's what I want. I love the complexity. I love the challenge,
I know that I had one of my best friend's wives loves old fashions. And we were sitting there and she always does Luxardo cherries, which I love. Luxardo cherries, sticky cherries. And I was at her house and I was like, listen, get rid of your simple syrup, because she was using simple syrup as the sweetener. I said, listen, just take a half a teaspoon of the cherry juice and throw it in there. Make it a little darker, a little richer, make it a little savourier. Yeah. And do that. And I think, my God, how interesting would it be to take, like, I know this is going to sound ludicrous, but to me it doesn't. Take a used barrel, put it on a spinner,
and put the Luxardo
cherry juice in it.
Yeah.
Whip it around, let it dry.
And then go.
and
Almost like that's your cherry bitters.
and then throw in, some, see what that, as like do it in a small barrel just to see what it do in a small barrel so you're not wasting. I just think, like when you start experimenting, that's like back in the day, I mean, back when I started, these idiots know me. I was smoking stuff like crazy. I was doing peach wood. If there was a wood, I did it. I just wanted to see like what was the influence? What was this? And so one of the local guys here kind of knew what was going on and knew a friend of mine. He's like, so I went down to my tattoo shop, talked to my buddy. He's like, dude, somebody dropped off a gallon of shine. I was like, oh yeah, what for? And it's like, they want you to make it bourbon. And I was like, well, first of all, what's the composition? And they told me, and I was like, oh, I just need an oak container. And they said, yeah, but we want it to look like it's a little old. I was like, okay, I can do that. So what I did is I did a super, super heavy char on chips, just wood chips.
Yeah.
And I threw the wood chips in with a heavy char into the liquid. And for 3 days, it sat in there, and every 6 hours, I shook the jug. And I'll tell you what, when I gave it back to them, they like, dude, this looks like this is like 3 years old. I said, well, the little chips impart color faster.
Yeah.
And they impart flavor faster. And, we went through it, and it was really interesting. So that's like, it used to always get in my head like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if I did peach wood and I just charpy it, So I think that goes along with what you do, right? I know what I know, but I experiment with some things that I think could be something in small volume. And then, it ended up being that one of the guys in YouTube, Dusty Dan, if you know Dusty.
Of course.
So Dan asked me one time, he's like, dude, I need you to make me a barbecue blend. I'm going to have a barbecue. I want a whiskey that we can drink with.
I remember when you made that with the old
I did. I made him. And I was like, dude, perfect. I did a mesquite. I did a mesquite and applewood blend char on Old Forester 1920.
Nice.
Did you hear that, Zach? Bobby was making King Ranch before Old Forester.
And he sent it back. He called me back. He said, dude, we have guys here that would buy this. I was like, dude, I can't mass produce this. I'm just
See? Bobby needs royalties on that King Ranch, I'm telling you.
But it made the best barbecue.
Back up. So were you infusing smoke into the bourbon? Okay. All right.
So I'm telling you right now, you could call Fred Minnick and ask who's the first person that ever asked. He'd probably never remember the name until you said it. But I called Fred back in the day, and he answered. I said, hey, is there anybody doing smoke infusion? Because I've been doing this for years. He's like, no. I said, dude, I'm telling you, you can impart so much flavor fast in smoke infusion. Yeah. And what you needed to do is so what I was doing is I was imparting smoke into it. I left room for smoke and sealed it. And then you let it condense, and the smoke got infused in the condensation. And so then you just shook it, and it reintroduced the smoke down into the flavor profile.
So the smoke became a liquid?
Yeah, it got trapped into the liquid because it never left.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But you had to be careful. You couldn't put very much in it. So, I would do like a little bit more than 3/4 of, I did a little bit bigger than mason jars, but 3/4 of it would be whiskey. And then I'd put the chips that I used, throw them in there. And then I'd put, I'd have the smoke and put smoke in there. And then I just let it sit. But I could only do it for about 24 hours.
Right.
After that, it was too smoky.
Right.
But what you could do is you could do that and completely change it was night and day. You could change it completely. And just
so I got an acquaintance, and he's interviewing to help me do some blending in Indy. Great guy, very, very creative. But he's actually working on a machine to do that on not a mass level, but it's a machine to do more than a mason jar. I'll put it that way.
Well,
And
the
he
thing
loves
the thing that's the most important is the only way to catch the true flavor of the smoke is through condensation.
right.
There
Exactly.
has to be room for the condensation to rise. So the condensation acts like a cloud, right? It
Right.
gathers the smoke particles,
Right.
and then you reintroduce it back down, and then it changes the flavor. It doesn't do it just with smoke.
Well, yeah.
It's got to evaporate, or it's got to come up and condense, then grab it and go back down.
Yeah. It's like
Then you
distillation.
get it.
Yeah.
Then you get it. But condensation is the key
Yeah.
if you're doing smoke infused.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
I used to do videos on this all the time. I would do it live. I was like, do this and do that. And, and I got away from it because back then nobody was doing it. Nobody was doing anything. And, and I was like, man, these guys are missing the boat. This is great.
I think there might be a future in that. I don't know how big it is,
Dude,
but I bet you there's going to be someone who's going to do an infused bourbon. I bet you.
Dude, you can do some crazy stuff and impart stuff very little time. You're talking like, depending on volume, what your overall volume is, you're not talking very long. You could literally just put it in a vat that's on a 24-hour rotate. So you just have a vat that's on a spindle, and then just every 24 hours, it just flips.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd reintroduce it all to it. I mean, I'm an engineer by trade, so it's not that hard to figure out how to do it. You just have to have the pieces parts to do it.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I think that's, to get back to the original point, is like, I think the thing that is the most important thing that I hear from you, right? The thing that matters to me is I drink it because I like it. And I know what this was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all do this, right? Well, I like this, but if I want it to be X, what's missing to be X?
Yeah. So Bobby, I mean, let me give you the base level for Backbone. It's if I buy someone else's whiskey, which is fantastic to begin with. So if you're looking for traditional whiskey, I probably don't have a lot of appeal to you. But if you're looking for something that's, it's going
to push your palate.
Yeah, it's going to make you think. And is it going to be an either or? No, I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I blend that way. It's going to be. There's definitely going to be a lot of appeal in it, but there's going to be some nuances to it that I want you to think about, and maybe that night isn't your night for that particular expression, but that's what Backbone's about. I mean, I think we have a narrow audience, and I'm fine with that. If it gets bigger, great, but I want people that want to think about what they're drinking, and they want to, it's like stimulation, right? A lot of people drink bourbon just because it's the end of the week or it's the end of the day, and I love that part about bourbon culture, and I always want to be a part of that part of bourbon culture. But what Backbone's trying to do is for the person that's up for it, the person that has that inclination, is to try stuff and want to really think through what's going on. We have different levels of bourbon. Not everything is super complex. Just we're a business and we got to sell shit. So, but the stuff that we really put our brains behind, it's got some complexity to it that if you want to pay it, look, you can just drink it however you want. I mean, drink it with Coke, whatever, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, but if you want to really think about some bourbon, Backbone is something that I want people to think about for sure.
Definitely. So to get back to something you said earlier, so what can we look forward to with Backbone?
Well, that's a great question. So we're about to announce an offensive move. There's been a lot of defense, but it's based around the concept of a micro batch, and so it's really I'll tell you about it, but it's the background for it is to really do some marketing for what Backbone's good at. Um, we want to try and grow our reputation as a company. We'll explain our reputation as a company, but we're about to announce a private club, and don't laugh, but it's going to be limited to 500 people, and it's free to join, but it's a micro batch experience. So a micro batch for us is 100 to 500 balls. We can't do more than 500 balls. That's my definition of where you stop being a micro batch. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play with all the stuff we have in our portfolio, and we're going to be working hard to find combos. It might be 4 or 5 barrels. It won't be all the barrel, but we're going to be working hard to come up with things that are really interesting and push the boundaries of what traditional bourbon is, but still being traditional. And it's going to be there's no real distribution about it. It's all going to go through. We have a retail relationship in DC, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with that concept. But the first release should be at the end of July, maybe beginning of August. It's a really special release. It's going to be 10-year MGP, and we've had these barrels for 10 years. We didn't source them. We bought the whiskey. We barreled it back in 2014, and we couldn't find any barrels. So, but it's going to be about the best way I can put my foot forward in this club. It's going to be called the Landmark Society. We are going to have a different landmark on every release. It's all based on Indiana. There's going to be some unique landmark in Indiana, and it's going to have a word name for the batch. So we'll be sending it out to, we have a consumer list. They'll get the first crack, and then we'll announce it on Instagram, and we have some other, stuff that we don't do as well on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff. But we're going to cap it at 500, and then we're gonna blow people's socks off.
So how do we get those?
I'm pretty sure you're on a consumer list, Bobby. If you're not, then I'll make sure that you are, because you emailed me today. But it's just 3 releases a year. The bottles will be $100. It'll be $100 a bottle, and it'll, it's free to join. But it's, you don't have to. Obviously, you don't have to buy, all the releases. But it's going to be $100, and you're going to get this. You're going to get a front seat to the experiment room at Backbone. Put it that way.
Oh yeah, because
that's cool.
I'm definitely
that's an interesting concept.
I mean, where's the prepay for year 1?
It's free to join, man. Just buy the bottle.
Yeah, but I just want to make it easy. I just want to prepay so it shows up when it's ready.
Just email me and tell me what you
then
need.
I don't have to check emails and search for everything.
I have an interesting question, I think, for Nolan. Nolan, if there was one thing about bourbon regulations that you could change, what would it be?
Me.
Well, I tell you what. I'm just, I hope no one's listening, but distribution is hard. I mean, it's impossible to grow brands as a small company, because, you have to. Getting hold of the distributor is, even we have small distributors, but even getting hold of small distributors is hard. Scheduling stuff is hard, and you go to the market and you pay for 3 nights of hotels, and then the rep's different the next year. The where you go, but that's not regulation. Did you say regulation?
I did say regulation, but
you did say regulation.
I think that falls I think that falls in the same kind of headache that that's a fair answer, I think.
But
Because
So can I throw a twist on that?
go
Sure.
ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
Okay. So we all know that Kentucky has made some special rules now where they're allowed to skip the 3-tier system to do a special distillery own release where it doesn't have to go to the 3-tier system, but it can only be sold at the distillery. Now that's great for them. But that really puts a hindrance on everybody else doing really cool things because you're not allowed to do that in Indiana. There are brands around the country, in Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, all over the place. We have people all over the place these days that aren't allowed to do that. I would like to see everyone get that same opportunity where you could do X amount or so many gallon release, per year that could be distillery only that didn't have to go through the system. That would really help out. I think that would really help out any distillers or especially craft distilleries or smaller NDPs
Right.
that are doing this to drive people in the doors because that's the only place you're going to get it. You're going to get really special stuff there. It creates that hype. It helps keep everything moving. It keeps the wheels going. And while that's great for Kentucky, I think we need to be able to see that more in the other states and across the board in the bourbon and whiskey industry because that's something that could really keep things going when and I know that distribution is in this freeze frame. Okay.
Right.
They're trying to clear out warehouses. They're
Right.
not bringing in things. They want you to pre-sell everything. They don't want to help you. Just like you said,
Yes.
so many different distributors are seeing turnover or turning over on their own
Right.
that you don't know from week to week sometimes who you're working with anymore. And that makes it really hard. But when
Right.
you're going to do something that's these awesome little micro batches and things like that,
Right.
that helps keep the business going
Right.
and keeps the business prominent because you're bringing people to it. You're generating sales when you're stuck normally using this 3-tiered system that, no offense to
Mm-hmm.
the forefathers of bourbon,
Yeah.
government, everything, it's an antiquated system.
Right.
It's really holding back a lot of companies that could really be thriving if we didn't have to run with this system.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it change for everyone so everyone has an opportunity to thrive. Everyone has a reason to bring fans of their brand in to their storefronts, into their businesses, because that's the only place you can get it. That's the only place you can try it, you know. Then they get to see everything else you have. They get to have cocktails, they get to interact with you. And that just helps build brands as a whole because of that interaction and feeling like you're part of something because, hey, I was there. I got to have something you can't get anywhere else. I also had the chance to buy it after I tried it because that's the only place you can get it. I can't go get it at a store anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
I think that's important right now. And I want to see that happen more across the industry because if you're not in Kentucky, it doesn't help you. And if you don't have a distillery license in Kentucky, everybody else you're screwed as well if you're not considered a distillery. And that's not fair across the board.
Yeah, that was a little bit of the spirit of what I was trying to say. Is that it's so hard to connect with people that want your stuff, and I just want that to be easier. So, Chris, yeah, that was well articulated.
That's completely understandable. I just it's got to be hard for people to live in states where you can't ship to, and you can't even get it from an out of state. They're not bringing it into your state, but you're not allowed to ship in, and you know, it's tough. You know, me being down here in Texas, we're not supposed to be able to ship anything. You know, it's not to say that there aren't some that skirt those rules, but hey, you know, it's still it's tough. And I think, you know, what Chris says is, you know, having the opportunity to get introduced to these brands, that especially some of these smaller brands, you know, if you live in, you know, BFE somewhere out in the middle of
Yeah.
the country, and your only
Yeah.
way for you to get it is
Yeah.
to order it.
Right.
You know, you're relying on, you know, UPS and USPS to get it to you. That's really your only way. You know, your local store's never going to carry it because
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
thank God for UPS and FedEx, because they go to BFE. They go to BFE. In fact, they go to the BFE of the BFE.
Oh man!
I saw a UPS
I
vehicle
do-
today in the backwoods of Kentucky. That was a beat up pickup truck with a UPS sticker and the guy wearing the UPS uniform that said rural.
I am so glad. Listen, y'all don't even know how glad I am that Nolan used FedEx, because they deliver on Sundays. Because let me tell you what, I would not have this bottle right now if it weren't for them delivering it on Sunday. Because delivery the last 2 days, there hadn't been anything delivered, if you know what I'm saying. I'm down here in Texas, so we just had Hurricane Barrel through, and you know.
Yeah, well, let me tell you a funny story. In the 2020 presidential election, Joanne something was the Libertarian candidate, and she had a convention in election day party, whatever, in Texas. I think we sent 12 cases of backbone bourbon down to Texas via FedEx, and I think we got about 10 out of 12. Some good old boy in Texas was drinking great that night.
He's like, "Oh, that stuff broke. It done broke."
Man, you know, I always question when they're like, "Well, just one broke and the rest of it made it," you know, and it's like, no, you opened it up, you took a bottle out, and you backed the rest of it up in a different box and sent it on to its delegation. Yeah.
Well, I can say I got a box sent to me at Christmas time. We won't talk about what's in it. It was supposed to be 19 pounds. I got a different looking box than I was shown was sent on my front porch that weighed 5.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I got something, but when I told the person or the people who sent it, they were like, "What do you mean that's all you got?" I'm like, "Look at your delivery picture." And they have the great delivery pictures. You can look at it and they're like, "That's not the box we sent." I'm like, "Look at your stuff." They looked at it and it said right on there, damage repacked and shipped.
There you go. 5 pounds.
Yeah, 5 pounds out of 19. Yeah, somebody had a really good Christmas. Somebody had a really good Christmas party.
Hey, I gotta tell you a funny story. We one year we sent like a little pack to our investors, like cool bourbon, you know, old stuff. And like I saw one investor, and I go, "Hey man, did you ever get that package?" No. Where'd you send it to? No, I moved from that that address. And I go, "Oh shit." So we sent a FedEx, you know, as we do. And so what I did is I wrote a letter to the guy. I wrote a letter to the same address, and I said, "Hey, I sent a package." Good, awesome. Maybe got backbone.
137 proof of your goodness, buddy.
Woo! What? Wow! Goodness gracious me! What is that?
That's the barrel. That's the Barrel Outlaws pick.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh, I love those guys. But I wrote him a letter, and I sent my email in the letter, and he emailed like, "Hey, I think we might have like mistakenly thought that was for us, and we drank all the bourbon."
I thought it was for us, but I didn't order any bourbon. But hey,
it wasn't my name on the deliver.
The guy sent me like $300 for the thing.
Oh, you know what a good dude though.
What a good dude! I know.
I'll tell you, we showed up at our hotel room last night. The lady's like, "Do you know so and so?" I'm like, "Who?" She goes, "I was supposed to put stuff in your room. You're so and so." I'm like, "No, that's not me." She's like, "Oh, weird." Didn't say anything after that. Checked in. We go upstairs. There's a card. There's a gift box and everything. We're just like, "What's this?" I'm like, "I don't know." Pick it up. It's got some other guy's name on it, and then it says room 311. We're 310. We put it in the wrong room. I grabbed it all. I took it back down to the front desk. I'm like, "Here's what happened." I'm like, "You put some box, and it had to be a bottle of something. You could hear the liquid sloshing around." Took the card and everything. Like, "Here you go. You can call that room." I go, "I'm not going to knock on somebody's room. Go, here you go. This was in my room." I'm like, "That wouldn't look good for you guys that we're supposed to do a surprise." But we dropped that off last night. I'm like, you know. But like you were saying, there's other people out there that would have taken that and been like, ripped it open and be like, "Whoa, look what I got." Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
known for our
I'm not
honesty
doing
in
that
the
to
Midwest. I mean, the Midwest guys are pretty solid. I mean, I tell
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
as you
I'm
know,
not
Bubby.
doing that. I'm not doing that to anybody. No way.
I still think it's cool that he sent you money for it, though.
I know.
That's unreal. That's
I-
unreal that you got money.
Oh my God! He said, "Tell me what the cost is." So I was like, "Okay, great, $300." He took it, emailed the check.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't see that happen ever.
No, it's I mean,
That's
it's a really nice.
fantastic.
It's a really nice neighborhood. Which
Right.
the first part is like, why did he keep it? And then the second part is, well, that makes sense.
So one of the
Yeah.
funny thing, or not really funny, but one of the cool things we're doing with Battalion Cigars is
Yeah.
we're going to have a private membership group.
Okay.
And because everything for me is, pretty military.
Right.
So our private group is called the Clusterfuck because that's what it should be, right?
Yeah.
Part of that is, doing like quarterly barrel picks.
Okay.
And doing stuff like that and having a cigar that pairs to those.
Right.
And some of that stuff's what, we're really excited about, being able to offer an opportunity for people to get limited cigars and private barrel picks.
Well, I want to be involved in the limited cigars if I can. I mean, I don't know how limited the group is, but I would love to be involved in that, and I'd love to taste what you are picking.
Yeah. No, I will send you information, but yeah, we'll make sure that you have the first cigars that are coming out. You'll have some.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for freebies, so.
Well, it ain't about that, but it's about just.
I'm paying for them, so I want to sign up and be part of the thing if I can. If there's
You can. It'll be a limited number, but it hasn't launched yet. It's probably going to launch.
We'll get the email of everything out to you for sure tomorrow of the basic stuff, and then as this comes out, all that'll come to you 100%. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
and I'll get you guys. You guys will get the invite for the club. And we're trying to get to 500. I don't know how much we'll get initially, but
I know all of us are in, and we'll do it.
Yeah, we're in.
I'm gonna tell you, this is probably my favorite bourbon of the year right now.
Oh my God, it's so hot in Texas. I think he's a little bit dizzy.
Well,
it could be the hurricane spinning him around. I don't know.
So I think listen. So I'm going to speak on your behalf, Zach. Zach is a Scotch guy.
Yeah.
Zach is a former bourbon guy who went Scotch and is finding his way back to bourbon. I can understand why. He would say that, and he's being honest about this.
I have my bourbon palate, and I know when I really like a bourbon, and it's something that doesn't just taste like everything else that I've already tasted. And you give me cognac, Armagnac, finished stuff, I'm like, okay, those are typically my. If you're going to finish something as far as bourbon goes, cognac, Armagnac for me is number one. You can leave all the other stuff out as far as I'm concerned. But this is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
The palate's so nice. The flavor just lingers forever.
Yeah,
It's really, really good.
yeah.
I can't wait till this hits market. Like truthfully,
We still send stuff to Whiskey Advocate. It doesn't mean a damn thing, but I always, it's just so fun. I mean, we haven't, we just haven't bought a lot of stuff. I mean, our batches are slowed down because of what's going on, but Sam sent the Forge batch 3, and I, out of the 1, 2, and 3, I thought 3 was good, but it wasn't 1 or 2.
I've only had 1, and 1 was
delicious.
One was
I love that
was
one.
really good.
Yeah, I tell you, man, that's a brand I thought would just kick ass and take off, and it still will. I'm confident, but it got 91 at Whiskey Advocate, so I know those guys pretty well. They get like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people sending random shit into them, and somehow, like, we weren't even paying attention. I kind of lost confidence in even getting reviewed, but they reviewed it. I randomly picked up the Whiskey Advocate Summer Edition or Spring Edition, and there it was. So, but I'm gonna send Backbone Estate, and we sent Backbone Estate, and then I'd be curious to see what they come back with. It'd probably be a 91.
If you're getting over a 90 at Whiskey Advocate, you're doing everything right.
Yeah,
because there's not many things that you find on there that are 90 or better. Now, mind you, I'm gonna give a little bit of a
go for it.
If it's over a 90 and you don't see an advertisement from that company in the magazine, it's absolutely legit.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna say this: there's advertisements from the company for that bottle, and it's over a 90.
Yeah.
Grain of salt. Grain of salt. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there. I mean,
I hear
it's a lot different than it used to be in that magazine. But when you're just sending a bottle in like you did, without paying for advertising, and sending the bottle and hoping to get a review, and you get a review and it's over 90, you're doing it right, because that's them still at their honesty and being real.
Yep. Friend Minnick was the first guy to ever review our stuff. And we got, I don't remember what it was. It probably wasn't 90, it's probably 89, but this is back in 2016. But we've had some good people, or I've had a relationship with people over there, and I don't have, I mean, the last guy that I had a relationship with is gone. So, that's even more to my surprise of why they picked it. But anyway, you know what my dream would be is to get Whiskey Advocate to do a little story about my tasting room, about a little David fighting Goliath.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Bobby, you got to come to the tasting room as it is today. I know you came several years ago, but let's
set it up. Let's set it up.
I have.
And the great thing is we do half barrels and we do third barrels. So we want people to walk away with what they can do. We don't want to load up an inventory. We just want people to get what they want and sell it, and everyone's good. But it's really cool because we have a great space, but then we do a little pre lineup. We kind of figure out what the feel of the day is. Different variety, different whiskeys, different ages, different mash bills, different finishes, all that stuff. And then we go into the warehouse or into the barrel part of the warehouse, and we start drilling. you know, and then we have some stuff that we can thief. So it's like candy. It's like if you're a bourbon guy, you're a kid in a candy store, man. We can get whatever we want. It's a great old space. It's got windows. Yeah. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now I have some free time coming up. I'll email you. What are you doing on the 27th of July?
I can check, but
I think you should be coming to the
I
Battalion
think you
Cigars
should
event.
be coming up to making the trip up here.
Is that Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah. And where are you, Bobby?
I'm up in North Central Ohio.
Okay.
So my manufacturer is coming up. We're doing a private cigar rolling event.
Okay.
With a whiskey there. And you know what? It wouldn't hurt to have the more the merrier.
Sure.
We're going to be doing hand rolled cigars.
Yeah.
By
I'm sure that
my
we can.
Manufacturer and the master roller will be here doing a private event, and we're doing whiskey cigar pairing with fresh rolled cigars.
That cigar is amazing.
Well, let me confirm, but I think I can do it. I'll confirm with you when I confirm. Yeah. So in the evening, right?
Yeah, it's going to be probably like from 5 to 8 or 6 to 9, somewhere in that range. There's like a 3-hour late or early evening event.
Okay. All right, cool. What town are you in?
Ashland.
Ashland. So
it's about 3.5 hours.
So North Central Ohio is.
Yeah. So you're going to go from here. You're going to take 70 straight to 71, straight to my house.
Okay.
Real easy. 70 will go straight into Columbus. You'll hit 71, and then 71 runs right to Ashland.
Okay. All right.
And
okay, let's do it.
So it's going to be a great event. We're going to have it on the Battalion. So battalioncigars.com. For those that try to Google it, don't Google it. Put it in your web browser, www. Because if you try to Google it, it's going to come up with some GoDaddy bullshit. But if you go, it does. But if you go to www.battalioncigars.com, it'll come right up. We'll have that up there, in the next 2 days?
Okay.
Yeah, dude, I'll get it up there tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have the flyers and all that stuff tomorrow. I have to give him the address,
okay,
the times,
all right,
and the price and that stuff. So it's really nice, right? Because we're keeping it really affordable. We're doing it at $100 a person.
Yep.
With that comes whiskey, cigar, fresh rolled cigars, any cigars that you want to. You get one with the money, and then you get the whiskey cigar pairing event where I teach it. And then what ends up being is that any cigars you want hand rolled more than one, it's $10 a cigar.
Nice.
And they'll be sitting there rolling them. And watching Oscar roll cigars is one of the most.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
I bet.
So Oscar used to be the master roller for Davidoff.
Wow.
He's like number 2 roller in. I don't know if it's the world, whatever it is.
The world. He ranked in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
like he sat in front of me and did one of these
and rolled.
And I watched him, and he had everything set out, and he was describing stuff, and he was rolling. And he'd hold it up, show me, put it down. He'd grab the other stuff, put it out, not look at me the whole time, roll it, put it down. And he did 5. He's like, walked up. They were all perfect. He handed me one. He goes,
"Let's go smoke."
We went outside and smoked it. I'm like, come on. Never looked at it once. And he was doing the cutting on him and everything.
And if there's anything you want to bring to share,
I'll bring shit.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people there.
I'll let you know what you probably would help you to know what I would want to bring. So
yeah, I can just sit there and
and you can use it however you want. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, the idea is to like get your name out and all that stuff. It's going to be at a really nice place. So I'm doing it at the Ashland Golf Club.
Okay.
They have a tent there that holds 100 people.
Nice.
And what it is trying to get to whiskey and cigar enthusiasts. So we want to get it advertised soon. And we're going to put it out on, mass media. I'll put it out on my mass media, which reaches the people in Ohio. I'll reach out to a couple guys I know. And then, but there's people that have showed interest of coming in out of state and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, I want to come do that. So I'm hoping to I'm opening it up to no more than 100. Would I really anticipate, 80? And so a 3-hour event.
Yeah, it's great.
And there's places to stay here. We'll definitely, either come back to the house, do stuff here. There's a Hampton Inn. There's like 3 hotels right out there close.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that, Bobby. Don't worry about it. Guys, I'm going to take the leak. I'll be back in 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Maybe 15.
Yeah. That's a long week.
Oh man,
It's a good lead.
This is fantastic. I see what you were saying now, Bobby, when you had that previous media sample.
Yeah.
This is wow.
Yeah, Cleveland's your best bet if you're going to fly in. It's the quickest, easiest. Because Cleveland Airport is right off of 71. You could be at the location in less than an hour.
Oh man.
No, what's funny? I was like, the last time before we knew it wasn't going to happen, I pre-gamed it. So I was sampling it and tasting it. And then when we did, I was like, oh no, I only have a little bit left for the next time.
Bobby did a Bobby.
Listen, man, that listen, I don't hype bourbon.
You don't.
No, you don't even come close,
if I'm
dude.
saying that it's good, it's good.
Well, I'll tell you what, the thing that I thought was so interesting, and I think I picked up on it as fast as Chris did, and you probably did too. That drank way older than 6.
Oh, by far.
Because it literally went into my back palate register, and I would have put that at like a
This
10,
drink
somewhere
this
in the
drink
range.
this drink well under 55% too.
Yeah, I felt like, but I felt like it was punching at a good proof. Like, because what I mean by that is you can have a high proof, and some people's like, well, I like it to punch low. Yes, I do if I'm just drinking, but if I'm having a cigar, it can't punch too low because then I have to be really particular with what I'm smoking.
This was nice, man.
If I smoke something too heavy, it'll knock it out, even though it could be 10 years and this. But, we know that one thing for sure, age can mask proof. It always does.
Definitely.
It can.
The fact that I thought 110 was punching right in that, like 107-ish it wasn't far off of what I thought it could be. Because I did get that, like, that back out. Like, I know that the only place I can really pull age is on my back register. It has to be on the back sides of my tongue. I need the barrel spice to, like, dig in. Am I getting, like, age? What am I getting in there? If I am getting age, I'm expecting to have a little bit more of a tannins note. There's things I'm looking for with that. And I thought
there is a wonderful oakiness on an empty glass.
Oh.
Just, it's like if you really like, and it doesn't come off, honestly, on the palate, doesn't come off as oaky as it does on an empty glass. The empty glass seems to have a little bit more aroma
you
oak.
don't get the oak, but you get the beautiful barrel spice.
Oh, you get the spice all day long on the back.
Oh, the spice in the back was awesome. But I think my favorite part was how long it lingered on the palate.
That's why it goes with a cigar so well.
Absolutely.
That lingering spice, and then you take a draw of your cigar, you're just like,
And we were saying this before you came back from your 15-minute week, dude. We're not just blowing sunshine up your ass. This is a good. I could drink this without a cigar, which is not common for me. Now, I will say this
100%.
in the same breath. My first release premium stick is probably the first cigar I've ever smoked without a whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
And it was knocked it out of the park. I was like, this is so good. Like, really good. And, and someone asked me, it's like, well, what's the number one thing you do with it? I said a triple shot caramel macchiato.
I don't know, man.
So good with it.
One thing we didn't do was a cognac Armagnac finished bourbon with it. And honestly, I think that it's going to hit the mark. The mid palate on this with the mid palate of that particular cigar, I think is going to just.
Well, if you're familiar with cigars, right, the cool thing about it is when you talk about like what Nolan was talking about, blending and finding profiles, when I talk to someone outside the norm on cigars, you guys know this, it's Susie.
Mm-hmm.
I want Susie. So the lady that runs the cigar shop that I go to has been in the industry for years and years, multi-generational person, and she's up in her age. And when I told her what it was, she's like, oh, that's going to be so good because it's a Brazilian wrapper. And that Brazilian wrapper mixed with the binder and the fillers gives such a nice complexity. There was a bunch of things I was like, wow, this is really fucking good. And I was on vacation and I took them with me. I was on vacation for 7 days and I took 8 cigars. And I smoked.
It lasted one day.
I smoked a cigar a day, but I did them at different times each day with different drinks and all the way through. And there's no doubt about it. I could do that cigar in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it was so good.
Yeah, dude. That's when I first had it. I rolled in the morning and you guys had me have it. It was like 9:30 in the morning. And with the coffee.
Oh, dude, it was amazing.
All day, man. And I didn't expect that. Normally I don't go with the darker wrapper in the morning. And it hit. And that's what's fun.
Nolan, let me know if you're confirmed that you can come that day so we can throw it on the flyer. If so,
I'll confirm tomorrow.
Yeah, just email me, text me, whatever. Let me know.
That'd be great.
Let Chris know because he's going to build the flyer.
Yeah.
And I'll.
So I got a fun question for Nolan. We've talked about what's going on in the bourbon. What's going on with the rye? Because if people don't know, Nolan's got some amazing ryes. Whether it's been MGP ryes, whether it's been some beautiful 18-year. Bobby's got the same bottle, courtesy of me.
Yeah.
18-year-old ryes.
So this is Chris sent me this bottle, and we had that in one sitting. And I'm trying to nurse it.
Rye is, the ugly sister of the whiskey world. But
I think she's prettier than the pretty sister because she's done up wrong.
Yeah.
I love rye.
We have a lot of rye. We can't sell it to save our lives, but the bottle that you were holding is something that we've been buying for quite a while. It's from Canada, and we bought in totes. Full disclosure, and this last the last set of totes were I think just under 17 years old when they put them in a tote. As Chris knows, that we immediately put them into a new bourbon number 3 char barrel. And the whiskey's great. it's a really unusual Canadian rye mash bill because it's 53% rye, 39 corn, and the rest is malted barley. So it's I don't think I've ever come across something like that from Canada.
Not from Canada.
No,
Not
I
from
just- I
Canada.
just
You see
poured
that
it.
from some of the American Kentucky based brands. You
Right.
do not see that from
No.
Canada at all. And that's what makes this so unique.
Yeah,
It's so
Yeah.
good. It's
Yeah.
so good.
yeah. So rebarreling it, and then Chris, it took a long time for this to get where we wanted to be. I think we bought these totes in 2022,
Mhm.
or early 23, I should say, and it just took forever to get where we wanted to go. But finally, we felt like they were ready to go. And so this batch has. I think it's a 5-barrel batch, but one of them is a rum finish.
Okay.
We put it in a rum. But yeah, I mean it's
So that sweetness is coming from that rum.
there should be, so there's a nice fall component.
This
is
one
sweet.
was a straight barrel.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, there's no
This
doubt
one,
about
this
it.
one's just an 18
Posse-
year.
Posse proof.
It's not the
Is that
finish.
No, that's the
It-
Posse proof.
This is 132.4.
Okay, so that's the Posse proof. That's a single barrel. So
Yeah,
that doesn't
yeah.
have any rum in it.
Yeah,
No.
these are single barrels.
But I'll tell you, Nolan, that listen, there's no doubt about
This
it.
is the one that went over to Lake's Liquor, Nolan.
Yep,
So
I
I
remember
get-
those guys coming down.
I get the
Yep.
rye component for sure, but there is a really savory note
Yeah,
that is outside of the rye, and I can't explain what or why.
Yeah.
But there's a richness that
Yeah.
leads you to believe that knowing what I know now, based on what you're saying, that corn malted barley has to be playing so well on that not being finished. Because if you would have told me that's rum finished, I'd be like, I could probably catch that. Because like there is a note there that resides outside of rye,
right.
and
So
it
that
has,
that whiskey, when we got in the tote, it had the high note that we want. And it's not this simple, but we needed to add the base note. So the oak really,
Thanks, buddy.
we just had to wait for that base note, which is going to be, there's going to be some sweetness in there. There's going to be some vanilla and just some bass, like you're playing a guitar. So we had to wait for that part to really get balanced with the high notes of the of the original whiskey. And so what I was thinking, so we have, that's a single barrel, but we have an Old Bones rye 15-year-old small batch, and we just
Okay.
did the second batch of that. But the first batch had 4 barrels of just refinished in a regular number 3 char barrel, but we had a rum barrel in there,
oh, nice.
finished in a rum barrel. So, but yeah, I mean, it's that second barrel is really doing a lot of good stuff to that whiskey, because it's I mean, the whiskey was very, the original whiskey was very floral and beautiful, but it just you just didn't want to have more than one sip or two, or one drink or two. But that oak's really kind of rounded it out nicely. So,
Well, I think the thing for me that's so surprising with it, knowing what I know now, is that there's like a really nice, heavy, thick, waxy, filmy coating note.
yeah,
And you can feel it back here. And it just feels like that finish brings out, it kicks into the saliva glands, which makes you produce a good amount of saliva.
Oh, dude,
And
that oak's there,
so-
but that you just nailed it. That waxy note,
the waxy,
kind of coats the front of your tongue, the
Dude,
front to
it's
the
just-
mid. That doesn't let the tannins from the oak overtake,
no.
and you're just like, Oh, it's there, and then all of a sudden it just kind of stops, and then you get that floral you're talking about. You're like,
That's like
oh,
that's like John Glazer always using Klein Lish in his Compass Box blends because he likes that waxy note that Klein Lish has. So
And you feel like you have this really nice, like I don't know, like dipping your finger in like hot wax, right? It's just a very thin coat, but it like lays for me. That lays on my now probably because I directed it there on my late mid to finish, and it feels like it's just I could not do anything for a while because it's just so present, and I don't lose flavor, I don't lose taste. It's all there, and it just keeps because like one of the things that anybody that knows me, I always talk about, it's so important that when you drink your whiskey to breathe out of your mouth because I'm trying to get the ethanol out of my mouth so that my throat can be the chimney to my olfactory.
Right.
I want the rye so soft so I can get the best flavor profile in my nose.
Right. Hey Zach, I've met John Glazer before. He was in my building, my office, or my conference room.
You just made Zach fanboy hard.
Listen, that is you talk about blending as kind of.
Who do you think I'm trying to be like?
Well, that's one of his things is one of the amazing things that he did was he never shied away from using grain whiskey in his blend. So he never shied away from making a blended Scotch whiskey. And the way that he did it, the way that he was able to use grain whiskey, but not have it come off, kind of sharp and kind of pointy on your palate, sometimes grain whiskey can be.
Are you talking about single grain?
Well, no, not necessarily a single grain, but like young grain whiskey, the way that he chose to, I think the way that he chose to use it is it added something. It added something that he felt that those single malts were lacking. And the way that he crafted those blends has always been just like the mad scientist,
Yes.
And even the new guy that he got working for him, the one that did he did the Circle, he did Heat Monster Arcana. He's kind of been the guy that's kind of taken over a lot of the heavy blending duties there at Compass Box. The way that they've chosen to use the whiskeys and the way that they've used those whiskeys is the most interesting thing that I find. They're just sitting there just kind of, in the back room, just kind of, all right, we're just mad scientists, this stuff, and
yes.
And when you know you've got it, you've got it. It's not about a perfect formula, I think. And I think so many people are like, oh, it's got to be X amount of this, or it's got to be so much of this. It's like, when it's right, it's right.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things, like you said earlier, when you got asked and you were like, I don't know the answer to that question. You're like, it's a feel.
Yeah.
You just kind of when it's ready.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather give you questions to your answers than answers to your questions. But the thing, the other company we have is a distribution company in Indiana. We represented Compass Box for 12 years. We before they were cool, we had them because that's the kind of company we were distribution wise. So I've always really paid attention to what they do, John Glazer, I mean, American dude, made his way in Scotland. I mean, I'm a South African dude making my way in America. I understand. I understand. I've had a firsthand look at what he's trying to do, and somehow he developed those relationships. I don't have the breadth of relationships that he has, but still, what he does and what I'm trying to do are, you know, I'm trying to marry.
Contemporaries. You're
Yeah, I'm
contemporary.
trying to marry traditional with avant garde, and that's what he did. And you know what? The fucking Scots have been doing it for centuries. If
Well,
there wasn't an American John Glaser, there was a guy that was at a distillery that was saying, well, "What if we do this? How about we get some of those damn Spanish barrels? Let's get some." Oh, that's what was going on. So
but if you think back, to early '80s, even late '70s, all the best whiskey was going into blends. That's why if you go and you find a J&B, from the late '70s, the quality on that bottle is head and shoulders above what you get today, because the best whiskey was going into those blends. They didn't pull it out to make a single malt. When Diageo made it kind of the thing to do, and they made that a selling point. And now people are like, well, why would I drink blended whiskey? I don't know, because it's good.
yeah,
I mean, like, I drink good whiskey. I don't care where it comes
Yeah.
from.
yeah,
I don't care who made it. I don't care what continent it came from.
Yeah.
I like whiskey.
Right.
And I like exploring those things that make a whiskey unique. One of the two of the really new distilleries in Scotland, Ardnamurchan and Raasay, they have put such a emphasis on quality barrels from the start that they're releasing 3 to 5 year old whiskey that's winning awards over
Yeah.
10 to 15-year-old whiskey, because they put good barrels.
Yeah.
And Raasay, their very first release was a blend of half peated, half unpeated, but like they used some rye barrels, they used some that's funny.
Douglas and Sons.
You know, like it's the way in which they chose to blend those barrels together that created that inaugural release that was so good. And it was probably average of 4 or 5 year old whiskey.
Yeah. So Zach, let me. I wear this a metaphor out all the time, but Backbone's like a restaurant. We have great ingredients, great base ingredients, and then we deconstruct and we elevate. And I think it's probably, maybe it makes more sense now in this part of the discussion than it would have been at the beginning. But the how do you explain what someone does when they buy someone else's whiskey? Well, this is how I explain it. It's we deconstruct and we elevate, and we make it our own. And
you've chosen to rebarrel, you've chosen to finish barrels. Then you've now you're saying that you still got some barrels from when you guys initially started, that it was just stuff you didn't sell and you just kind of stuck in the back, and now that stuff's 10, 12 years old, and you're going to release it as part of your private group because hell, it got too good to mix it with anything. You know what I mean? Like,
and we weren't successful enough to sell it.
Listen, you know what? Listen, it was a happy accident, right? You were painting happy clouds, you were doing the Bob Ross.
Oh, we Bob Rossed it. We're in the Bob Ross era. Let's go.
Listen, man.
That's a happy barrel.
You know what? I like somebody that's got enthusiasm. and
Yeah.
you've definitely got the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And that you're putting stuff out there for. Well, let me rephrase that. You're putting stuff out there. Number one, that you like,
Yes.
and you're hoping that the community follows. And I really do believe that when people start to hear that and they really start to get out of drinking standard bourbons, that listen, your stuff is phenomenal. This estate is fantastic.
Good.
This is a bourbon that I'm gonna buy when it comes out, and I'm gonna make a shelf staple because it deserves it. Not because I'm, you're here, and thank you for being here. But like really, it's great bourbon, and it's bourbon that I want to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
No,
think that's a great compliment, Zach, because from a Scotch guy, that's high praise. So,
I just, I listen. I started off as a bourbon guy, and I love bourbon. But when bourbon started to get stagnant, and I started to feel like I had tasted everything, I moved to Scotch. And I was like, oh wow, there are all these other flavors. There are all these other things. Now, I will say that your ability to finish these barrels, I think you're taking a lighter touch than a lot of companies, and you're not leaving it in the barrel too long and losing that. Like, there's still a dusty corn note on this estate bourbon. Even though you've done all these other things, there's still a corn note that you can go back and go, okay, that's bourbon. And I like that. I like that I can taste the other things, but you know what? I like the fact that it still tastes like bourbon. So, my hat's off to you, Nolan, for real.
As we're about the 2-hour mark,
Yeah.
I want to put Nolan through a quick fire.
Uh-oh.
You ready for it?
yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Running you through a couple quick questions, quick fire. Just quick answers.
Yep.
Don't get in depth.
Quick
fire.
I'm good at that.
One thing to look for from Backbone Bourbon in the next 6 months.
Next batch of Big Bash. We just got the #1 American blend from the I don't remember who it was from, but it probably wasn't that important. But I'm working on that blend right now, and it's going to be great. We're also going to do a Decade Down, which is highest rated from Whiskey Advocate, but it's just, it's like I could put up it just the quality, Bobby. I'm doing the quality right, and we know the revenue will come. I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what we're doing. Okay. Next question.
What is the favorite release you've had to date?
The Decade Down 22 batch was sick, man. I have a really I don't know if you guys taste it, but I'll bring a bottle, Bobby. But man, it was just the right place at the right time. Everything
Special.
It was just I didn't have to do much. Just everything was right. Decade Down 2022 batch.
Craziest finish coming that we don't know about yet.
Oh shit. Well, I've had about 8 months, 9 months of people saying I don't want anything from a finish, but God, I've been drinking. I'll come back to you on that one. Let's go. Let's keep going.
Okay. Favorite wine, as you came from the wine world, your favorite wine?
Rhone blends.
Nice. Very nice. Favorite spirit or bottle, not bourbon or whiskey?
Rum. Aged rum.
Is there a favorite brand or a favorite release?
Uh, no, I'm not that into it. But man, I tell you, I haven't met an aged rum I don't like. So
That admit, hey, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you on that one.
I'm a barbarian. I'm a barbarian. Come on, man.
Hey, you're good. Favorite cigar you've ever had?
Oh, Bobby, Colorado Claro, number 3, Davidoff.
Davidoff
I
number 3.
want it on my deathbed. Just put it in my mouth.
Hopefully, we can change that.
Yeah.
Bobby, I was at a blend's got they bought they have a private label from Davidoff. They have 4 different sizes. They bought 2,000 boxes, and we had a big event last night. They poured some backbone for one of the cigars. But yeah, I mean, you'll get there, brother. You'll get there.
If you could pair the perfect dish with a backbone bourbon, what would it be?
I don't know, pork belly.
I'm down with that.
Pork belly.
I mean, he's nailing it here.
I like that big fatty note with that viscousy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
If you could make the perfect cocktail with a backbone bourbon, what would the cocktail be?
Oh my gosh, man, dude, old fashioned anytime. That's just traditional. Fuck, I mean, it's the quintessential blend. Um, you know,
Is there a certain bottle that you think would make a better one than another?
Would you use the
If you
bourbon or
got
the
to pick
rye?
perfect.
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, I like the rye for my old fashions.
That's actually
But-
the most traditional.
Yeah, I don't mind them, but yeah, I mean, we have a like a $39.99 rye, but and I would just, dude, I make them at home that way. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's got some spice. It's sweet. It's good, but yeah, I'll take rye with my old fashioned. Please.
Nice. Where is backbone bourbon going to be, and what's the goal for the next 5 years?
We want to be known as that. We want to have the reputation like John Glazer. I mean, these guys know what they're doing, and it's like being in a high-end restaurant where if you buy one of their things, you know you're getting something good. It's you buy people. I want people to buy our stuff because they know our reputation, because they're getting something that's well thought out and over delivering. God, I can't imagine 5 years from now, but I'm taking it 1 month at a time. But I have faith. I'm in it for the long haul.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's all the quick fire, man.
Yeah, you guys are great.
Listen, man.
Point.
I think what you're doing with bourbon is exceptional. Listen, the very first backbone that Bobby told me to ever go buy, he's like, dude, you gotta go buy backbone. I was like, okay. So I go to the store, and I was like, oh, it's a store pick. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just buy the store pick. I didn't read the label. I get it home, and I'm like, Bobby, what are you talking about? Now, full disclosure, bourbon and port for me don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Bobby, what is going on? I turn the bottle around and I see, oh, this was finished in a port barrel.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my least favorite thing to mix.
Well, Zach,
For
thanks
my-
for the honesty. Thanks.
Well, listen. I have the follow up to that, because the night that you were supposed to be on, that was the only thing that I had. So I grabbed it out. I pulled it out. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't probably touched that bottle in a year. I pulled it out. I drank some out of that bottle. I said, you know what? This opened up. There's not so much port here anymore. And I said, this isn't as bad as I once thought it was.
I'm sure there's no coffee in this.
I will say this in Zach's defense. He doesn't like port in anything.
No.
It's irrelevant. But I told him, I said, listen, you
there
need to go
is
get the back
one-
cut. And
There
you
is
need the bourbon.
one whiskey that I think does port okay, and I only really like it whenever they blend it, whenever it's part of their blend, and that is Kilholman.
Mm-hmm.
That is Kilholman. I do like the Kilholman small batches, and I do not mind that if it has a little bit of port mixed in. But that's about it. But I will say, listen, that bottle turned the corner for me, and I have drank more of that bottle since then. So I don't know that you're going to convert me to port, but
Probably not.
it was much better after that bottle had opened up a while than when I initially opened it. But like I said, we're not going to sugarcoat it.
I don't think I don't think it's been over 2 years since I sold a barrel of bourbon finished in port. No one wants that anymore. Maybe 18 months. But, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just
I do too. Done right, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And
I will tell you, if you are coming to the event, we do find out you're coming to the event. I did come across probably 2 years ago now, one of your either 2015 or 2016 releases of the uncut.
Ooh,
that was like
8 years old.
Batch 6 or it's one of the 8-year-old ones.
Yeah.
I'm bringing that with. We'll be all having that together.
We were at that point. I mean, it's for sure.
Yeah, that was one of those random things. I stopped, honestly, a gas station in Wisconsin.
There you go.
And it was on the shelf for $39.99.
Oh my god! Well, I'm glad you.
Yes,
bought it.
I bought it. Yes, I bought it.
It's
all right, guys. I think I'm going to close it down if that's okay with you, Bobby.
Yeah. No, this is a good stopping point.
I will confirm. I have to check with the wife. That's the only thing I have to clear, but I'm clear otherwise. But I have to clear that I don't have any duties beyond what I see on all this. So
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for everything always.
Great conversation. You guys are my brothers for sure. Yep. Absolutely brothers. So
just email me about the list and all that stuff, and
sure,
we're in.
We cannot wait, and we cannot wait for you to get to try this cigar, because we truly believe this cigar was blended with the purpose of accompanying a whiskey, and as far as we're concerned, it is the pinnacle of everything that we've had. So we can't wait for you to try it. So thank you so much.
I love your community. It's cool, dude. I really appreciate
we appreciate
it.
You taking the
and
time.
I'm sorry, Bobby. I'm sorry about the lost time.
Oh no, that was.
I gotta make it up to you. I gotta make it up to you. But
no, we're all good, man. I'm just
those
glad
things happen.
I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it up. So, but thanks, guys. I appreciate it. See you guys.
Thank you, Nolan.
Take care.
Cheers, Nolan. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
See you, bud. See you, Chris.
Wow, that's a cool dude, man. Because that's my first time. That's my first time meeting him. Like, he's cool.
Yeah,
and to find out that he was in the same building as freaking John Glazier, like, and they were the ones distributing his stuff. That's pretty freaking cool, man.
Yeah.
That's actually really, really freaking cool.
Yeah, man. Nolan's OG coming from the distributor side into the producer side, and he's not just a distributor in Indiana. He's Indiana. I know he is in California as well. I believe there's some more, but we didn't ask him that, so I'm not going to put more on the plate. But I know he has done and is doing both those states. So
So
He's been on
Yeah,
both
man.
sides of the game. He gets it, man. He gets it.
All right. Well, I think we're at a good point.
yeah, man.
We'll end this.
I am gonna take my leave because it was a long freaking day.
Chris, I'll hit you up.
So I'm gonna finish what I got, and I'm gonna head to bed. So thanks, guys,
All right.
man.
Cheers, everybody. Great stream.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out.
Awesome.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.